Hi, Ben here from Trident Fly Fishing, back with our next installment in how to choose a fly rod. And today we're going to be talking about action and whether or not you want a slow, medium, or fast action rod. Stay tuned. Now, you're probably wondering, what exactly is fly rod action? And quite simply, it's going to be how much any given rod flexes from the tip down, where it flexes, sort of its general overall stiffness, and the speed of which it recovers from any load. Now, that all sounds a little bit complicated, but a fast action rod, or sometimes referred to as a tip flex rod, will flex up at the tip. Similarly, a medium action rod, also sometimes known as a mid flex, will flex down about halfway into the blank. And last but not least, a slow action rod, or a traditional action rod, or a full flex will flex all the way down into the cork. Now, if you're shopping for a rod today, you're going to notice that most of the rods are labeled fast action. And while that's definitely true, there's no standard for what that really means. So it's going to be up to the individual brand and rod designer to determine what is quote unquote fast action. And while for most of the 2010s and onward, almost all rods were fast action, we're now starting to see rods that are labeled medium fast. And that action is sort of getting a little bit softer than it was for a long time. So you're going to want to make sure that you cast any individual rod and make sure that it's truly the action that you want. And that leads me into the most important factor of choosing action, which is to match your casting stroke. There is really no right or wrong answer as far as action is concerned. If you're a guy who really loves a fast action rod, you should fish a fast action rod. On the other hand, if you've got a slow casting stroke, you can fish a slow action rod in almost every application that you can fish a fast action rod. But if you're watching this video and you've never cast a fly rod before, you probably want to go for something that is a medium fast action rod. And that's because fast rods require a little bit more delicate timing and generally provide less feel than medium fast rods. And that just means that they're going to be a little bit harder to learn on. So if you can get a slightly more moderate action rod as your first rod, that's going to give you a lot of benefits. Now, let's talk about some of the ways that fast action rods are better than slower action rods. This video is supported 100% by your purchases at Trident Fly Fishing. So if you're in the market for some new tackle, check us out at tridentflyfishing.com. First and foremost, all else being equal, if you're able to generate the speed and power to load a fast action rod, you're going to be able to get more line speed and cast that rod further. Now, with that being said, most people cannot take true advantage of that extra power and would be totally fine and might even cast further with a slightly softer rod. Fast action rods are also better into the wind because of that same factor. They also recover much faster than medium action rods. And that's just gonna allow you to punch a little bit further into that wind. Fast action rods are also generally a little bit more versatile. You can cast a wider range of lines on them, and you can even line up, line down. As much as I hate recommending that, it is more doable on a fast action rod, certainly than a slow action rod. You're also going to get better hook sets on a fast action rod. They just don't flex as much, and therefore you'll be able to set that hook deeper and faster with a faster rod. And last but not least, fast action rods can actually cover up some casting mistakes. And that's actually one of the reasons why we don't recommend them for beginners, because they can create those mistakes. But if you're sort of an intermediate caster and you're not going to be out practicing every weekend, a fast action rod can actually make you a better caster than a more moderate rod. On the other hand, fast action rods have some cons, and I would also say that these are the benefits of having a slower rod. First and foremost is going to be presentation. If you have a softer rod, you're going to be able to present a fly more delicately, and that's going to be a huge benefit on any technical trout stream where you've got to make delicate casts to picky fish. And we talked about that hook set benefit on faster rods. The corollary there is that slower rods are going to offer better tippet protection. Imagine a rod that flexes all the way down to the cork. That's going to be a really big spring to protect that 7X tippet. And last but not least is going to be feel, and quite simply put, slower rods offer more feel. And while that's a totally subjective thing and is going to vary from rod to rod, slower and more moderate rods are just going to bend deeper and give you more feedback at the cork, which is great if you're learning to cast, but also a lot of fun to cast. Now, we started out this video by telling you the most important factor was matching your casting stroke, and that's still true. While there are definitely specific pros and cons to faster and slower rods, it's still most important to make sure that you've got a rod that you love to cast. But let's take a look at some examples of where a faster and slower rod might be beneficial. The first and perhaps most obvious example of where a fast action rod is going to be beneficial is going to be blind casting. And we do a lot of striper fishing here in Maine, and that's the perfect place to use a faster rod. We're casting all day long, and sometimes you have no idea where the fish are going to be. And that means that a fast action rod that can pick up that line, punch it out quickly, is super, super beneficial. We also have a lot of wind here, and getting that extra line speed, also very beneficial. On the other hand, a slower rod can be a great choice if you've got a bushy little creek. You're gonna wanna get as much flex as you can to make that short distance cast. And we also talked about spring creeks, where making that delicate presentation is oh so important. But there are also a lot of examples where rod action can vary. Streamer fishing, indicator fishing, all are great places where you can employ a faster rod for slightly better results. Now, hopefully, I've done a great job explaining that, but if I haven't, don't forget that you can always give us a call at Trident Fly Fishing at 888-413-5211 or email us 24/7 at support@tridentflyfishing.com, and we will walk you through the perfect action for your next fishing situation. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see how this series on how to choose a fly rod finishes. I'm Ben. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.